Not everybody can be a video essayist. Not everybody can be a live streamer. Not everybody can do debate. It's a different skill set, which is why more people should do it if the skill set matches what they're doing, because it all, hopefully, aids in the creation of more left-wing people in the world. And if that's something that's interesting to you, wholesale shitting on an entire different format does not facilitate that. In fact, it does counter to what the supposed goal of leftist content creation is supposed to be. Of course, this is your mom. This is pure LaCroix, unflavored, no calories, no additives. Unflavored is the best flavor. It's just TV static. It's very good. This is some discourse that's been around for a long time. This is not new. Nothing is new under the sun. Time is a flat circle. Recently, it has made a resurgence. There is a lot of talk about, are debate bros bad for the left? Is there some so-called war between video essayists and debate bros and live streamers, I suppose, doing political content? Noah Samuelson, Noah Shamison, Noah canceling debates or whatever, solving the debate bro problem. I've seen this video, not on my own, but I've seen other people watch it, and I've got some thoughts. We won't be directly covering this video, so don't worry. You've seen that a million other times. A million other people have already reacted to this video. It's not what I'm doing in this one. I thought that I would approach this topic in a more interesting and potentially helpful capacity, while also dipping into the drama because we have to. That's just what we do on the internet. So I actually covered this. This is from April 19th, 2021. So a little under a year ago, I talked about, are debate bros bad for the left? And I looked dreadful in it. If you'll see, I look gross. My camera settings are bad. My lighting isn't as good. My hairstyle, not great. It is what it is. But I've already talked about it, and I say all this just to flex, because I've been talking about this for a long time. There seems to be some so-called war between video essayists and debate lords, and just live streaming political content creators. And I think the reason why it seems to be the case that it's almost always video essayists shitting on political live streamers and debate lords is simply because it takes more work to create a highly refined, highly researched, script-written, pre- and post-produced, highly edited video essay compared to live streaming. It just takes more work. You need to know how to use Premiere or After Effects. You have to do the script writing, the research. You have to do all of this labor in order to produce the product, and that's all fine and good. I respect the labor that goes into it. For a little bit of backstory on my end, I have done video essays in the past. So if you look at my YouTube videos, nowadays I'm doing React-style content that's incredibly transformative. But if you look at my older videos, all of these are script-written. They're essentially video essays, but I was doing live recordings of my video essays, multiple takes, to my live stream as kind of a way to meld video essays with live streaming because I wanted to build up both platforms. Turns out it's really difficult. No way. Who could have thought? And I could show you the script that I've showed a lot of times. So here is the script for my first ever, what I called CONURE report. I did all the research. I did all the editing, I did all the script writing, we got formalities, whatever. This is the first video. AOC proves the right wing is anti-Semitic. It was back during the concentration camps drama where she correctly used the word and the way that the definition to describe the border camps that the Trump administration was housing migrants in really bad conditions. And here's all the script for it. And here's all the script for it, and here's all the script for it, and here's all the script for it. And this is just coverage of an interview. And all of these superscripts are individual slides that I would skip to that I also had to make. Essentially, what I mean to say is that I'm familiar with how much work it takes to produce a video essay. I have done it, and I intend to continue to do it into the future. The difficulty here is that now we're seeing a lot of live streamers just upload unedited highlights of segments from their live streams, or like mildly edited live stream segments, and it doesn't take as much time to do that. It doesn't take as much time to do a live stream, create the segment from the live stream, and then have consistent uploads on the YouTube channel. The YouTube algorithm currently prioritizes watch time and frequent uploads. It likes those things a lot. And you can't really do that if you're doing video essays. ContraPoints, for example, does like 2-hour long feature-length film videos. Like that's a once a month or more than that kind of deal. And because of that, those kinds of things can be deprioritized in the algorithm algorithm, so it just seems to be the better way in terms of how the YouTube algorithm now works to be a live streamer, to create the content and consistently upload it, even if the production quality isn't as high. And I think that's one of the big reasons why video essayists have a problem with them outside of the whole debate lord kind of side of the equation. Like, the whole debate bro idea seems to just include all live streaming political content creators, not just people who do debates. Not every political live streamer does debates, but they still get shit on for it. Like, the common one is like, oh, these are just people playing video games and they're doing so well and they're getting so popular, blah, 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 blah. It seems to be motivated a lot by spite or like a feeling of being slighted. Because of the amount of labor that it takes to produce a video essay, you're now seeing all of these live streamers produce like a video a day by doing live stream content, and they're doing very well because the algorithm prioritizes it. I can understand why you would feel slighted in that way. And the unfortunate thing is that it seems to manifest in video essayists constantly shitting on live streamers and debaters. And like I say, this is not the only reason, but I think this is one of the biggest motivating factors for a lot of people outside of some of these other reasons that I'll get to in a little bit. And it's unfortunate because that's kind of an immature way to go about it. It's not the live streamers or debaters' fault that the YouTube algorithm does not prioritize very highly edited long form content. It's not like we didn't do that to YouTube. But I think that's the primary motivating thing. It just seems to be spite. Now, in addition to that, there are other issues that video essayists will have with specifically debate bros in this idea that like, ooh, it's always constantly debate me, debate me, debate me, this kind of thing. I don't know that that happens a lot at all. For when it comes to the larger debate streamers out there on the left, of which there are not many, it seems to be Vosh, Demon Mama does debates, Xanderhall does debates, Shark300 does debates, Jangle Science Lad, Destiny was like the preeminent liberal debate lord for a while until the Vosh Inquisition happened. So it's a small pool of people that are getting criticized for this, and I don't know that I often see them be very overt in their attempts to like get video essays to debate them or whatever. And I'm not saying that it doesn't happen. I'm just saying that I think it's overstated how much of a problem it is. And the additional one is that like, oh, debate streamers communities are like going to be going out and harassing people or whatever. That, by the way, I don't know that I see that much either from left-wing debate streamers. I'm sure it happens, but there is a difference between harassment and simply people disagreeing with you on the internet. There are definitely ways to harass people while also airing disagreements, but ideally people are airing disagreements in a way that isn't easily construed as harassment, because in a vacuum it's not. Wanting people to be able to defend their positions is not a negative thing. There are negative ways that it can manifest, but inherently it's not a bad thing. In fact, it's a good thing. So now we get into this. Now it's time to get into the paint stream. This is going to be a reiteration and an updated version of my diversity of tactics, the Leftist Content Creation pipeline. Handwriting this is a bit messy, but I think it's a lot of fun, and I want to do it. The diversity of tactics, Leftist Content Creation pipeline. So the big meme back in the day, and a lot of left-wing people have actually described their journey out of this thing, is the so-called alt-right pipeline, where you would have a variety of people like kind of on the fringes of political engagement, finding videos that weren't overtly political and were eventually introduced to political ideas from certain creators and eventually led down a pipeline, down a rabbit hole, eventually to the point where they might even become like alt-right, like Nazis and whatever else, which is really bad. This is not a thing that is intrinsic to right-wingers. The left wing has this as well. And I'm about to describe, I think, the best way for that to work, hopefully. So I think the big elephant in the room in the broader conversation around debate bros, are they bad for the left, live streamers versus video essayists, is that we're specifically talking about political content, explicitly political content. But that's not how this thing works. That's not the most efficient way to do it. When I think about what is the purpose of content creation on the internet, left-wing content creation is not to install communism in the United States and decommodify everything and move us to a moneyless, classless society. That's not what's going to happen from left-wing content creation. The main reason why we should continue to engage in leftist content creation is to create more leftists, to provide people the perspective of left-wing politics that they might not get otherwise through the mainstream media or whatever else, and try to move more people to our side and increase our numbers. And in this way, we have to engage in the entry points that are here. A big thing that I seem to see people miss, and I think one of the most important rungs of the ladder on this pipeline, is apolitical content. This is very important. This is how a lot of people got sucked into the alt-right pipeline by watching gamers and whatever other apolitical content they were watching that were then led to other, like, more explicitly right-wing political actors. This is a very important niche that needs to be filled to facilitate this leftist pipeline. So, some of the big pros to apolitical content. Okay? It is the biggest demographic to pull from. There is no bigger demographic to pull from than apolitical content consumers. People that watch makeup artists, people that watch media critique, people that watch, like, gamers, people that watch lifestyle vlogging. There's a massive range of apolitical content creators out there that don't have to directly engage with political ideas, but will then signal boost other content creators that do explicitly political content. That's the idea that I was describing before. It is the biggest demo to pull from, and in that way, incredibly important. Also, people that do this content, because it's the biggest demo to pull from, have the highest potential for a large audience. Because apolitical content has the biggest pool of viewers to pull from, we have the biggest potential for a large audience in this group that seems to be highly uncontroversial of a take. And that's a massive pro. Another big thing about people who would typically be consuming apolitical content, they might not be apolitical themselves, but a large portion of them might be. If they don't have the most concrete understanding of their political positions, they then become much more malleable. They are like putty in your hands. You can, through good propaganda, because propaganda is not always bad, through good delivery of information, you can shape these people's worldview into something further left than they might already be in, because these people have not thought about their political positions as much as people who are already engaging in political content. It is very, very easy to sway them to your side. This was one of the major reasons why the right wing was very, very successful in their pipeline creation on YouTube during the Gamergate days. And the final piece of this, and why it's very important, the creators signal boosting political content aids in a higher potential conversion rate. So the idea is that apolitical creators, while they are not doing explicitly political content on their own, they're not specifically trying to deliver any kind of political information through their content to their viewers, if they do signal boost other actual political content creators, that will facilitate a potential higher conversion rate for those normies watching that content. So to move on to the cons of apolitical content creation, there aren't that many. The major one that I can think of is that any amount of political affiliation can be a turnoff. Because there are people that engage with apolitical content as a way to avoid politics. And that is a bit of a fool's errand, in my opinion, because, I mean, politics affect your life all the time. Like, it's hard to avoid it. In fact, you shouldn't avoid it, but I can understand why people do. And any amount of, like, overt affiliation to politics could potentially turn off certain viewers to the content, which means that you lose the potential for converting them to left-wing ideas. That is, like, the primary negative that I can think of. For a good example of who does this well on the left, in my opinion, we've got none other than the best teeth in the game, the internet's busiest music nerd, Antoine Fantoine. Very, very good at doing this. Anthony Fantano does not do explicitly political content. He does not do this. Sometimes he'll talk about his politics in his content if it's relevant to the music industry, because that's his niche, it's music review, but it's not what he does directly. However, his viewers, if they go on to follow him on Twitter or other social media, will be exposed to political ideas that he posts there explicitly, because he seems to be on the left, and he also signal boosts other leftist content creators that do explicitly political content, and in that way, his audience has a higher potential for becoming political in a leftist direction. Very, very, very good thing. Another person that does very well with this, I'm told, I actually haven't watched a lot of the content, is none other than Jim Sterling. Apparently, Jim Sterling does video game reviews and is also doing a lot of crypto-related stuff in regards to, like, shitting on crypto. Apparently, people tell me that Jim Sterling is very good at peppering in political content to largely apolitical content, which is very, very, very helpful and important. So those are two good examples of, I think, of people who do this very well. Next up, we have for the people that are a bit more engaged with politics already, but are not explicitly so. So essentially just people that are maybe watching mainstream media coverage of things, but they like might not have their ideas fleshed out too much. They just kind of see things in their periphery. So next up, we have news and politics creators. These people are also not really talked about in this conversation, but they are a good piece of it. News and politics creators. So these are people that will do essentially lighter versions of mainstream media-esque content. So essentially, you're just covering the news as it happens, and it's very overt political content creation, but it's not unfamiliar to a lot of normies, which I think is one of the strengths of it. And I also don't think that this is talked about as much, so I'm going to talk about it here. So the pros for news and politics content is that the format seems to appeal to normies, like people who would view mainstream media. So if the only political engagement that these people have is that they might watch some mainstream media stuff every now and again, but that's about as much as they do, they're probably going to be more familiar with these kinds of content creators. And in that way, I think it's a good thing that we have them. And I think it's a good thing that we try to move people toward watching them. It's also good for newsjacking viral stories. So newsjacking is essentially some crazy shit will happen, and in an attempt to get your voice out there and get it heard, you talk about that viral thing. So for instance, the Ukraine-Russia stuff is a good example of that. Any kind of bills that get passed is a good example of that. The fact that there is a trending topic being talked about, if you can add your voice onto this and talk about that trending topic, you increase the likelihood that other people that aren't familiar with your content will watch it and then get a leftist perspective from it. It's a very, very good method for doing this. Video essays cannot do this. So these are the main pros that I can see. So the format appeals to normies. It might be really good for quote unquote apolitical people that already engage like pretty lightly with politics, like they see it on the timeline. It's a pretty good format for that, I think. But there are some cons to it too. The major con is that it is potentially less engaging. This type of content tends to be very dry, tends to not have a lot of snazzy editing, tends to be very minimal in its production quality outside of the sets that people might sit on to do it, and as a result, may not be the most engaging for certain types of viewers. For some examples of people who I think do this kind of content very well, we've got Uncle Sam Cedar. Sam Cedar and the Majority Report crew, I think, do this style of content very well. The big way that I usually try to talk to, like apolitical or like vaguely liberal normies that I've talked to. So for instance, I had an electrolysis appointment a while back, and the lady that was doing it, the esthetician or whatever, I could tell was liberal after we talked for a little bit. She was watching MSNBC or whatever, I found out. And I find that Sam Cedar of the Majority Report is actually a really good way to get like normie liberals to watch more left-wing content. And the reason for this is simple. Sam Cedar goes on MSNBC a lot, or at least has a lot in the past. He's on Chris Hayes' program a lot. He's actually guest hosted for Chris Hayes on his MSNBC program in the past. And essentially what I'll do is like people will ask me like, oh, well, where do you get your news from? Because eventually some way politics will come up with these normie liberals. I'll be like, oh, one of the people I like to watch is Sam Cedar for the Majority Report. You might know him. He's been on Chris Hayes' MSNBC show before. And in that way, I think that's a really good entry point to this kind of content. If that person is already watching MSNBC, the news and politics format is going to be very good for them. Another person, just because we've been going by twos here, we'll do the Humanist Report's very own Mike Figueredo. I think does a very good job of this as well. It's a similar vibe, of course, to Mr. Samuel Cedar, and I think he does very well with it. So these are the first two entry points that I see in the political content creation sphere. You've got apolitical content and news and politics content. This is the gateway, the start of your fall, or rise in this case, into leftism. And they're very, very important. And you can see how the right wing has utilized either of these options, specifically apolitical content, to good effect. There's no reason why we couldn't also do this, but for actual good political beliefs. So where do we go from here? What are the next steps? In my view, there are three different options, and these are the crux of the discourse that we've been seeing. There are two that are talked about a lot, but there's a hidden third one that I think people seem to miss a lot because it's conflated with one of the other two. But first, we'll start with video essays. Uh-oh, the big elephant in the room for all the people that just got here from a raid. Video essays are a very good next step from the entry point. Video essays are a very good way to deliver information to people in a very accessible format for some, okay? So what are the pros of video essays? There is an expectation for higher production value. Now, this doesn't always have to be the case. There are highly produced debates or live streams out there. There are minimally produced video essays out there. But there is an expectation for a higher production value, which usually entails a more engaging format for a certain type of viewer. Because of the higher production value, because it is prettier to watch most of the time, because there's a lot of extra editing, it can be more engaging for a certain type of viewer. That is certainly a pro. It's also dense info in an accessible format. People are very familiar with video essays by this point, especially apolitical ones. So because of that, the format is familiar and therefore relatively accessible. And you can deliver a lot of information in this format, which is very good. Additionally, pre- and post-production allow for careful and efficient explanation of topics. Because video essays are not often off the cuff, because they are usually script written, highly researched, ideally, and involve a lot of pre- and post-production, you can be very careful with how you want to deliver your information, what ways you think might be more engaging to the viewer, what might make it easier for people to understand what you mean to say, and it can be a lot more efficient and concise. Live streamed format, stuff that's off the cuff like I'm doing right now, is liable to lead to a lot of run-on sentences, rambling, tangents, stun locks, as it were. Video essays usually don't have this kind of a problem, so if you're dealing with people with a differing attention span that might make them more likely to engage with video essays, it's very good for that. The final thing is that it's easier to bait normies. So there might be people who happen upon a video essay and not really be aware of the fact that it's talking about politics. It's through the thumbnail and the title, you can very easily bait people that aren't expecting to be delivered political information to actually watch it. For example, this video, the Why Do Conservative Men Love Anime Girls video, the video I was reacting to, the title of it was just, Why Do People Like Anime Girls? And when we went on to watch the video, it turned out that the description for why people like anime girls was just tradcath, incel, Nazi rhetoric. The idea being that you would use that normie topic that people are excited to look at, because people like the anime aesthetic, they like anime girls, and then you deliver them an ideology that is political that they were not necessarily initially expecting to see. And you imagine that this person might have been successful in converting some people closer to that ideology. So it's much easier to bait normies, and in that way, the algorithm can be very kind to you as well. But speaking of the algorithm, because this is the world that we live in as content creators, we've got some cons. And this is a very major con. And I actually went over earlier in the stream as to why some video essayists seem to be very upset about the rise and prominence of live stream political content creators and debaters, in that they are very laborious to make. It takes a lot of labor to create them. It is a very laborious content style. It is very difficult to get consistent uploads and a lot of watch time out of something that requires you to do untold amounts of time in regards to research, script writing, graphic production, the editing when cutting them together, and then all of the post-production that you add on top of it as well to make it more engaging. And as a result, because the YouTube algorithm prioritizes watch time and frequent uploads, video essayists are kind of falling by the wayside. This is a similar issue that happened to animators, for instance. When YouTube switched to prioritizing watch time over view count, animators fell off, plus L plus ratio, which is really unfortunate because animation is a really cool medium to deliver entertainment. Essentially, it will take an animator like untold hours of time to create a 5-minute animation. And because it's only 5 minutes long, and because watch time is what's prioritized, you're not racking up a lot of watch hours doing that. It's very inefficient content, unfortunately, for the algorithm. Video essays are of a similar problem. Video essays range from like 10 to an hour plus video length, and you can get watch time out of that, but it takes a lot of time to produce. which is why I think a lot of video essayists are upset about live streamers and debaters becoming popular, because in their eyes, it seems to take less labor to do that kind of content, and those people are favored in the algorithm and are therefore more likely to become successful in spite of all of the labor that video essayists have to do. I think that is one of the motivating factors for why a lot of video essayists, just kind of out of spite, have a problem with these kinds of people, even outside of like disagreements with the person's political takes in a left-wing perspective. And it's not necessarily their fault. The way that you would engage with this problem in a negative way, shitting on other people, literally just trying to create more leftists through content creation on the internet, it's not the good way to go about it, but I understand why. I'm trying to be empathetic and explain one of the reasons why I think this happens. Because I've done both video essays and live stream content, I can tell you they are both very laborious. The average length of time that I stream for is anywhere from 7 to 9 hours or more. It is not very easy to talk and be always on, which is what is expected of a live streamer, for that amount of time. It is also not easy to speak off the cuff like I'm doing right now in a concise and easier fucking format for people to understand. I'm having difficulty with it right now. Like, you see this happening in real time. It is not an easy thing to do. It's a different skill set. Not everybody can be a video essayist. Not everybody can be a live streamer. Not everybody can do debate. It's a different skill set, which is why there are different people doing it, which is why more people should do it if the skill set matches what they're doing, because it all hopefully aids in the creation of more left-wing people in the world. And if that's something that's interesting to you, wholesale shitting on an entire different format does not facilitate that. In fact, it does counter to what the supposed goal of leftist content creation is supposed to be. This is not to say, like, oh, you might have disagreements with their takes or the delivery of their takes or whatever else, but in a general sense, to just wholesale shit on live streamers and debaters is counterproductive. In addition to this, which I've already said, but I didn't write at the time, there's a slower upload frequency, and because of this, less watch time, which is not favored by the algorithm, is disliked by the algorithm, okay? That is a big problem. Now, there's not a problem with video essayists. Video essayists didn't make YouTube switch to watch time, but it is a problem that we currently have to contend with, which is why having people doing multiple different kinds of content is very important. Another con, which is not as much of a con, the long runtime of some of these, like the feature-length films that someone like ContraPoints might make, can be inaccessible to some people. Not always, but it can be inaccessible to some people. So if there's a person who has like ADHD, for instance, hyperactive, it might not be very easy for them to sit through a 3-hour video essay. It might be easier for them to watch somebody else play video games while delivering political topics or debating another person because it's very engaging if they enjoy the competitive element, you know? And, you know, that's where we go next. Oh, wait, but first, I guess we don't really need examples for really good video essayists because there's a lot of them out there. You already know PhilosophyTube, ContraPoints, bunch of other people. Next up, we've got debaters. Uh-oh. Oh, no. The dreaded debate lord, okay? Debates. In my view, there is no war between these two factions. In an ideal world, they would be working together to achieve a similar goal in creating more leftists in the world. The end point may not be the same because everybody has their own specific denomination within a denomination, within a fraction, within a faction of different kind of leftists that they are, but the goal is just to create more leftists, and whatever endpoint we arrive at, whether it be anarcho-pterodactylism or market socialismo, I don't care. Fuck off. That's not what we're talking about. So, of course, there are pros and cons to this as well. The pros is that, in my mind, the 1v1 format directly exposes adversarial or centrist viewers to new ideas. In this case, left-wing ideas. This is very important, and it's one of the big things that debate seems to do pretty well. So think of it this way. There are people out there that might actually be, like, they think they're centrist and that they agree with some things on the left, some things on the right, whatever else. If you debate somebody that has that kind of an audience, from the left-wing perspective, they can get exposed to left-wing ideas, and in that way, they might rethink some of their pre-existing ideas about the topic and could potentially be converted over to your side, or at least moved a little bit further and potentially engage with other people in this pipeline. It's very, 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 very good at doing this. And because of that, there is a higher direct possibility, notice I say direct here, for conversion. You ever play Age of Empires when the priests or whatever do the wololo thing and you steal somebody else's unit, a warring, empire, and it comes to you instead? This is the idea behind that. There is a higher direct possibility for conversion. So for instance, that same so-called centrist viewer ends up watching a left-wing debater debate their favorite centrist debater or whatever, and they are exposed to left-wing ideas in an adversarial format that they seem to like, and they could be converted in that way. If we take that same centrist and try to make them watch an hour-long video essay on the same left-wing topic, depending on the kind of person they are and the kind of content they like, it may not be as effective. And in fact, it's going to be difficult to get them that content in front of their eyeballs to begin with. The main reason why this person might even be hearing these left-wing ideas is because they're a fan of the person that the left-winger is debating, and now they're having to forcefully listen to the left-wing ideas from the left-wing debater. That person may never engage with left-wing video essays. This might be the only way for them to get exposed to these ideas. And in that way, it's very, very helpful for potential conversion, which is another avenue for creating more leftists. Next up, the competitive element can be very engaging for a certain kind of viewer. So for instance, let's say you take a competitive video gamer. This person really likes watching CSGO. They play CSGO as well. So not only are they watching the pro leagues for CSGO and really engaged in that, have a favorite team and whatever else, they are also very interested in getting good at CSGO themselves. They have a very big interest in competition in a general sense. Let's say they might even watch sports IRL. If we take this person and have them watch a debate, the same competitive element that is in those video games or sports does also exist in the debate format, because unfortunately, not everybody is watching debates to get their ideas changed, but rather see their team win. But the amount of that actually manifests in a negative way, it's hard to quantify. But that being said, the competitive element for someone like that can be very engaging. And because of that, it might be better to point that person toward debates rather than video essays about a certain topic. Because video essays, there's not really much of a competitive element there, whereas debates are quite literally definitionally competitive. And the final pro is the low expected production value allows for frequent uploads. Now, this doesn't always have to be the case, but it seems to be that debate format, the amount of editing that goes into debates is not very high. The production value for debates is not very high. You literally jump in a Discord call and talk to a person. You cut the segment out of your live stream. You upload that with maybe some minimal editing, like a teaser clip in the beginning and an end card at the end. And maybe you could go even further and provide like fact checks and stuff like this as well. Yada, yada, yada. So the low expected production value for the content and the fact that the low production value doesn't require a lot of labor then allows you to upload more frequently, which the algorithm does seem to favor. But there are some cons to debate, and the cons are actually very big. The major con to the debate format, it's a very high-risk activity. Very high-risk activity. Not everybody can do it. It requires a different skill set to be able to not only just speak off the cuff outside of the debate format as a live broadcaster, but as an interlocutor when you're in the marketplace of ideas and battling another person in a debate. That is not a skill set everybody has. That is a skill set that you have to develop over practice. It's not easy, okay? And because of this, it's very high risk content. There are more valuables to account for and preparation required. So before you get into a debate, you need to know what the fuck you're talking about. At least there's a hope that you would know what you're talking about. Obviously, a lot of right-wingers literally don't know what they're talking about. And through rhetoric, they can kind of mask that and all this kind of thing. But that's another thing that we'll get into. There's a lot of variables as well. You need to be aware of what your opponent might say, because if you get blindsided by something that you were not aware that they might bring up, that could lead to a bad moment in the debate, and that can be fatal for your performance in it. You need to know a lot about the argumentative strategy of the opponent. You need to know a lot about the information the opponent might bring up. You need to know a lot about what you're going to be talking about, etc., etc. A lot of preparation is required. In fact, it might be at a similar level to the amount of preparation required to create a video essay. You have to have a plan of action, a strategy. It is war games, unfortunately. It's a lot of blood sports too. It is a lot of sauce. It's a different skill set, and not everybody can do it. So to elucidate this idea, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but I'm gonna bring up Destiny here. During Destiny's debate arc against the lefties, the Lefty arc, way back when, he debated Peter Coffin, he debated American Johnson, non-compete. He debated a bunch of different lefties, and in my mind, the lefties that he debated made a very pivotal error. They had the assumption that simply on the basis of the ideas that they intended to describe in that debate, that they would do fine. But unfortunately, the veracity of your ideas is not necessarily what wins you a debate. A lot of it is skill, rhetorical prowess, the ability to know your opponent, predict what they'll say like Joseph Joestar, and all this kind of thing. This is why not everybody can debate, and not everybody should debate. It's why I don't debate. Now, you could say as a counter argument to that, well, like, oh, well, the debate lords will always be like, debate me, debate me, debate me. It's like, well, you don't have to. Like, I certainly don't discount the pressure that will be put on you from debate lords and their communities to debate, but you don't have to do it. Yeah, and not every discussion has to be a debate either. And the final con for this is the minimal production quality, or production value, can be visually unexciting, which is where the video essays pick up some of the slack. If there is a certain person who needs visual things going on, a lot of post-editing for that production value, to be engaged with the content, debates may not be for them. News and politics content may not be for them. They might require video essays in order to stay engaged with the concepts and get the information to potentially be converted to left-wing ideas that way. So for our next steps, we've got video essays and debates. But there seems to be one that is kind of slept on. And the reason for this is that they just seem to be lumped into debates by specifically video essayists in their critique. And that is, do I have another color I can use? Have we used pink? We haven't used pink. Let's use pink. Political live streamers. For some reason, whenever I see video essayists complain about debate lords, they seem to also conflate all political live streamers with debate lords, which is not actually true. Hassan Piker, good example of this. He does political live streams. He covers political segments, usually in the beginning of the stream for however long, and then he moves on to watching Gordon Ramsay. Sometimes he'll play video games. He'll do IRL content with other streamers, play video games with other streamers sometimes. He does a variety of content, and not all of it is overtly political even. I don't only do political content on my live streams either. But I'll call these people political live streamers because they do also do political content. And it seems like a lot of political live streamers just kind of get conflated and lumped into debate lords as well. And I would like to dispel with this fiction that these are the same thing. So that's what we're doing now. Political live streamers. The pros. There is a large potential for a variety of content. And the reason for this is because it's a live format. You can literally do anything. You can play video games. You can watch videos. You can talk to other people. You can cover news as it's happening. There is so much stuff that you can do as a political live streamer that might not even be explicitly political. Like, you can watch Gordon Ramsay, and if you get some viewers that might not watch your other stuff, but they come to you because you watch Gordon Ramsay, and then eventually they accidentally listen to your political takes, could be a good way to get them moving, closer to your side. Pretty good. Hassan Piker does this very well. Also, political live streaming allows for multi-platform use. We'll say multi-platform engagement. It's better. And like I say, this is one of the major reasons why I think some video essayists might be a little bit salty about political live streamers doing very well, is because not only can you multi-stream to multiple platforms, usually what will happen, it seems like the best practice for anybody doing live stream content in general, but also in this case political live streaming, is that you can clip or highlight live stream segments and upload them to YouTube. This is the best practice to facilitate the growth of a live stream. This is the best practice to grow as a live streamer. You need to be uploading to YouTube as well. You need to be growing alternative social media platforms to the one you're streaming on. And it's relatively easy to do. This kind of content allows for a variety of content that can then just be shipped off to YouTube, and you grow a YouTube channel that way, and you can expand your influence in that way. A lot of streamers do this. It is in some ways less effort than video essays, and allows for the consistent upload that the algorithm favors and the watch time that the algorithm favors on YouTube as well. And, as such, I should write that as well. Allows for higher upload frequency. Also, because it's a live format, it is often easier to jump on trending topics. Because you're doing it live and alive, you can very easily just talk about literally a thing that happened earlier that day, some major trend that is now blowing up. You could just talk about it then because you're doing it all live. This is a major con to video essays. Because there is such a massive amount of preparation and post-production involved in a lot of video essays, you can't possibly have something happen like, for instance, the green M&M is no longer sexy thing, which is like a blip in the radar. Nobody's talking about it anymore, obviously. You can't make like this feature-length video essay about the green M&M, because by the time you get it done, it's probably like a month out from when it was even trending. Also, it's easier to engage in different content to what you would normally be doing. For example, gaming, discussions, comfy content, without the risk of alienating viewers. Now, there is still some risk there, because if people don't like a kind of content that you're doing that you're not normally doing, they might leave. Anytime I start playing Mario, people leave the channel when I'm not doing React content anymore, because that's what people seem to enjoy. But because of the expectation for live streaming being multifaceted and a variety of different kinds of content, it is very easy to engage in a variety of content that you're not normally doing or known for without that much risk of alienation from the viewer. Which is why video essayists will usually just have a second channel for different kinds of content that they're not normally doing, which is a good idea, by the way. Also, and this is kind of specific for live streaming, it is easier to monetize specifically on Twitch. The preconditions for becoming an affiliate on Twitch and being able to start getting subscribers is you need to have an average of 3 viewers for a certain amount of time, and you need to stream on a certain amount of days, and you need to stream for a total amount of a certain amount of hours within a certain time frame, which is fairly easy to do given the format. Whereas to monetize on YouTube, you need like 4,000 watch hours and a certain number of subscribers. I think those are the 2 main ones. And the other one is just like no community guideline strikes. It is a lot harder to monetize on YouTube or whatever other kind of external monetization. So for live streaming, specifically on Twitch and even on YouTube through super chats, easier to monetize. There are some cons to this as well. One of the major cons to this, and this is especially in regards to smaller creators, there is a smaller potential viewer base because of the live format. So these stats might be a little shaky at this point. I remember Will Neff talking about it. Apparently, the average Twitch streamer watches their favorite Twitch streamer for around 7 hours before they move on to the next creator. And that's usually just because their favorite streamer has gone offline and they now have to find some other place to distract themselves from the absolute abject horror of existing. So because of that, especially for small streamers, myself included, I only average around 70 to 100 viewers on a good day. It's not a lot of people that can watch your streams. So for me, for instance, if Vosh is live, if literally anybody else that also live streams that I share audience with are live, people are less and less likely to watch me because it's live content. There's a lot of fear of missing out, FOMO, for not being there when it's live, which is a big thing that Twitch plays on. And it's not super easy to watch multiple live streams at once because of the conflicting sounds you might hear on either one, etc., etc. Because of this, it's just a smaller potential viewer base. It's harder to grow as a live streamer. Additionally, the always-on expectation of live content is very laborious. So like I said before, I will hear a common critique of live streamers like, oh, it's so easy. All you do is sit in a chair in front of a camera and microphone and play video games with your gamer headset, and that's all you have to do. No, you fucking dumb fuck. Why don't you try it then? It is so much work to constantly be on, engaging, exciting, to keep the eyeballs of the absolutely fickle, spineless, disloyal viewership of live streamers. I'm kidding, you guys are perfect, if you're watching me anyway. It is very, very difficult to talk for 8 hours straight and be engaging. It's not easy. And not only that, but delivering off-the-cuff commentary is not easy either. That is a skill that you have to develop. Public speaking is not easy for everybody. I've had to develop this skill set. I've not always been as good at talking about things, especially given that I've always been not having a lot of friends, not being a very social kind of person, but I've gotten better at it through practice, but I wasn't incredibly good at it for about a year. But I guess we'll add this here. Public speaking is not easy at all. Most people don't innately have an ability to do public speaking. That's fine. If public speaking is not for you, maybe don't do like super intense live streams. Maybe just do like comfy gaming live streams on your off time when you focus on your video essay stuff off stream, you know? In addition to this, it's harder to grow specifically as a live streamer, if that's the only content you do, without networking of some kind, collaborating with other live streamers, appearing on their streams, on their YouTube channels, and whatever else is very important. In addition to this, you also need to be growing other platforms, specifically to live streaming. And it's not easy. Not everybody has the time to edit their live stream content and then upload it to YouTube. I had to get to the point where I had enough money to hire an editor in order to restart my YouTube channel, because the amount of labor I was doing on my own before I had a hiatus was way too much for me to do while I was also working a day job. The other way to do that is like a partnership of some kind, where like you both are part of the live stream YouTube outfit and you revenue split. One person does the editing, one person does the content creation, but that gets a little bit more hairy, so you have to be careful about that. But anyway, this is very granular. Aha, also this is a fairly major one as well. The live stream format is less accessible to busier viewers. If you have a busier life, if you have kids, if you have school and a job, if you've got whatever it is going on in your life, you might not have the time to sit down and watch a 7-hour live stream. And because of that, you could suffer in viewership. So now we've got the 3 rungs that I will call the next steps. We've got video essays, debates, and political live streamers. So next up, we need to figure out where we go from here. So we're going to have to wrap all the way back to the beginning. For the diversity of tactics, the leftist content creation pipeline, we've got the entry points of apolitical content and also news and politics stuff, which is not as accessible but is situationally more useful than apolitical stuff. Where do we go from here? What kinds of viewers will be more likely to want to go to a video essay or a debate or a live stream? It's a good question. And it's multifaceted as well, because nothing is simple in this life. But I've tried to simplify it. So if the content is higher energy, like gaming, reacts, etc., and they're used to the very bombastic go, 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 let's fucking go, dude, kind of style of a lot of those kinds of content, where are we putting them? Do we think we're putting them in a 3-hour video essay about a given topic that they might not even give a fuck about? I don't think so. In fact, this is why a diversity of tactics is important, because not every viewer is going to be finding video essays to be interesting or exciting. So if the content from the apolitical content especially is higher energy, like gaming and reacts, it seems like those kinds of people will more likely be interested in debates or political live streams. So for instance, we take the common example I've been using of The Gamer. If a person is watching apolitical gaming content on YouTube and that creator does have like a political ideology and they signal boost other content creators, it seems more likely that that high energy content viewer would be more excited to watch a debate or a political live stream where the live streamer also plays video game. That just seems to make sense. It is aligned with their interests. The debate format is very competitive inherently and might be similar in concept to competitive video games that the gamer might watch, and the political live streamers can play video games on the live stream without much issue when it comes to the alienation of other viewers, because it's expected that you're going to do a variety of content on a live stream. That's just how the live stream seems to work. It's not to say there aren't video essays out there that aren't high energy, but it seems to be the case that it's more likely that you'll find a similar kind of content that suits the interests of that person on this side of the fence. Next up, we have, what if the content is lower energy? They might be better suited watching video essays, because on the whole, it seems like video essays might appeal to the people that are watching lifestyle vlogging, media critique, which are already in the format of video essays, for those apolitical content creators, makeup artists as well, just because I have an interest in makeup. So consider the example of a makeup artist viewer, right? So let's say there's a makeup artist out there that doesn't talk about politics on their platform, but they have a political ideology and they signal boost other content creators that do political content. That makeup artist viewer has a lot of interest in aesthetics, very pretty presentation, a lot of visual engagement. That's the whole point of the makeup artist style video. They might be more excited to watch a higher produced, more visually stimulating video essay, especially considering how fucking gay a lot of the left-wing video essayists are out there with all their crazy outfits and sets and bisexual lighting and whatever else. It seems to be the case that that kind of person might be more excited to watch a video essay rather than a debate, or somebody playing Dark Souls badly while trying to deliver political commentary in some capacity. Potentially. By the way, the only reason there seems to be, I have a difference between these two is because they are actually different, but they seem to be lumped into each other. I don't want like this imbalance in the view to be like, oh, well, there's more utility in debate and political live streams. That's not what I'm saying. It's just that I wanted to separate them out because political live streams seem to be conflated with debates in this conversation. But this is also not to say that lower energy content from the previous entry points cannot also be moved toward debate or live stream kind of content. It just seems to be the case that video essays might be better suited. And what's super interesting about all of this is that, believe it or not, there is actually a lot of viewer share between all of these. And you might be thinking, CONURE, there's no way. There's no way that all of this content can coexist and help each other grow and facilitate the goal of creating more leftists. There's no shot. That's unheard of. Leftists working together to achieve a similar goal? No way, dude. Nah, dude. There has to be constant infighting and war because that just is how it has to be. You dumbass. You stupid, silly bitch. All of these things help each other. It is a symbiotic relationship of content creation to complete the goal of creating more leftists in the world. The reason why we want to create more leftists in the world through this very specific avenue, this is not the only way you do it, is so that those people might become more politically engaged in their local community, in electoral action, in direct action and mutual aid, in unionizing their workforce. All of these people, through the knowledge that they would gain from going down this left-wing content creation pipeline, might make it so that more and more people run for office, start organizing in their communities. All of that is then downstream from the creation of more leftists through this specific avenue, content creation. Seems to be a good thing, and the constant factionalization and fighting between all of these groups seems to be counterproductive to that idea. And one of the major reasons I got into content creation not only was to escape the slithery grasp of capitalism and the fact that I've been poor, have stayed poor, and am still poor, but at least now I can kind of do something I care about to make the money to pay the bills in society that I need to pay to not become homeless and starve. I got into this not only to do that, but also because I thought that I could be a very decent, hopefully, part of this equation through covering apolitical stuff and peppering in my politics where it's necessary, or even doing just strictly apolitical content. And then for the fact that I also upload political content, maybe the people that are interested in the apolitical shit start watching the political stuff. Who knows what else? I think I could be a very decent rung given my skill set to do that. That's the reason I don't do debates. I don't think I'd be very good at that. So I just don't do it. I let other people who are actually pretty good at it do that because it's also necessary to facilitate the growth of the left. It's all a very big plan, and we all should be working together. Now, it is not lost on me, and I said this in the beginning of the video, that when I see these kinds of critiques and infighting, it is not often that I see debate lords or political live streamers start the infighting with the video essayists. That is very rare for me to see. I'm in the space. I am embroiled in the space. I'm in the sauce. It's not to say it doesn't happen, but usually what I'm seeing is video essayists, for whatever reason, seem very excited to shit on debate bros. And in this case, it seems that a lot of it kind of stems from just wanting to shit on Vosh because he is the biggest leftist debate bro. He's like one of the few, the proud. There are other ones out there. I listed them earlier in the stream. I mean, some people would be like, oh, well, even Vaush and Zanderhall and whatever else aren't a leftist. They're still working to help move people to the left. And I don't know. I think having some kind of a version of a left-wing pipeline, a leftist pipeline, ideally, an anti-capitalist pipeline, is a good thing. I would like to see it work. And you can't really do that if we're constantly shitting on the other rungs of the ladder that we don't have a skill set to participate in. It is what it is. I acknowledge that I don't have the skill set to debate. I don't find news and politics coverage exceptionally interesting. For me, I acknowledge my weaknesses. I am aware of my strengths. I'm just not shitting on other people for the fact that they're doing a thing that I'm just not as good at. If it's, as long as it's helping move more people to the left and possibly create more audience that might watch me at some point. I don't know. Anyway, this is a roundabout way to say a lot in a long time. I don't know how to continue, how to close this out. Just end it. Just cut it off. Kill it. Old Yeller. Thank you, Hyperaggressive. This video's kind of called as Amelia, like Earhart, I assume. Glad you're finally able to make it back from that long plane trip. Thanks for the continued support. If you'd like to be the next CONURE call-out, all you gotta do, brother man, is follow me on the goddamn Twitter machine at CONURECC. You know the goddamn deal by this point. Yet I've got to say it every single goddamn time. I'm getting sick of it. Retweet the damn video links when I go live, or so help me Jesus Lord above. Remember to subscribe to the YouTube channel. Hit all notifications on when you spank that sussy little bell. Remember to leave a like if you'd like. Comment something unifying of left-wing content creation, creator, debate, bro, video essay, whatever in Sam hell people are talking about nowadays, and have a blessed evening.